In the hot, dusty town of Kijani, Amina, a polished and ambitious socialite, suddenly learns that her elderly mother, Mama Zol, has changed her will. Greedy for the inheritance, Amina's once friendly visits start to feel strange and tense. She smiles politely, drops kind words, but behind closed doors, her intentions darken. That night, Mama Zol dies quietly in her home. Neighbors gossip in hushed tones, sensing something is off, but no one really knows what happened. Only a small doorbell camera at the gate captures every moment without anyone noticing, its lens silently recording Amina's movements. The footage holds secrets that could shatter her carefully built facade, but for now, it stays hidden, waiting. Amina steps out of the house like a grieving daughter, wiping her hands clean of suspicion, while inside, the house feels heavier, filled with whispers of what might have really happened. The camera, small and unassuming, becomes the silent witness to ambition, greed, and the first step toward a truth that refuses to stay buried. As Amina plots her next moves, she doesn't know that even the tiniest lens can hold the power to unravel the largest lies, quietly biding its time as the town watches from the outside, unaware that the story they think they know is only just beginning. Amina acted fast, turning the house into the scene of a tragic accident. She made it look like Mama Zol had simply slipped and fallen, carefully arranging the furniture and her mother's belongings so nothing seemed out of place. Her voice trembled just enough when she called the neighbors, making them believe her grief was real. She posted heartfelt photos on social media, captions full of sorrow and loss, and people in Marafa responded with sympathy, sending messages and flowers. The town murmured quietly, sharing whispers and theories about the unfortunate death, but no one suspected the truth. Amina's smile was perfect, her tears just convincing enough to hide the dark excitement in her heart as she stepped into the role of the mourning daughter. Behind the scenes, she moved quickly to claim her inheritance, signing documents, transferring funds, and ensuring that every penny of Mama Zol's fortune landed in her account. The wealth she had long craved was now hers, and she walked among friends and neighbors with a confidence that masked the crime she had committed. She hosted small gatherings, thanked people for their support, and maintained the image of a daughter crushed by loss. Everyone in Marafa bought the story, everyone except for one careful neighbor. That neighbor had noticed the small doorbell camera at Mama Zol's gate and, suspicious from the start, quietly saved the footage to the cloud. No one else knew it existed. The camera's tiny lens had caught every detail of Amina's movements the night her mother died, recording her actions in a way that no staged scene or social media post could hide. The footage waited, silent and patient, hidden behind a secure password, while Amina enjoyed her newfound wealth. She went about her life, thinking her perfect crime was complete, never imagining that the truth was resting in digital silence, waiting for the moment it would explode. In Marafa, neighbors continued to gossip, speculating about how sudden Mama Zol's death had been, but no one could point to real evidence. Amina's careful planning, her charm, and her control over appearances made her untouchable in the eyes of the public. Yet, the camera, small and unobtrusive, was the silent observer that had recorded her greed and deceit. Every look, every hurried movement, every careful step of her act was captured in crystal clarity, locked away from prying eyes, but ready to reveal the shocking truth. The perfect crime seemed flawless on the surface, but hidden in the cloud, the evidence that could unravel it all rested quietly, waiting for the moment the world would see it and Amina's carefully crafted life would begin to collapse. Kemi had always felt that something was wrong. Mama Zol's sudden death didn't sit right with her. The stories she heard from neighbors, the way Amina acted so convincingly sad, all felt too rehearsed. She couldn't ignore the unease in her gut. Determined to find the truth, Kemi started asking discreet questions, quietly observing Amina's movements and listening to hushed gossip. Her instincts told her that behind the polite smiles and social media posts, a dark secret was hiding. But Kemi wasn't tech-savvy, and she needed help to uncover anything solid. That's when she thought of Temba, a shy baker in Marafa who was known for being incredibly skilled with computers and cameras. Temba kept mostly to himself, quietly perfecting his cakes by day and quietly mastering technology by night. Kemi approached him cautiously, explaining the situation and showing him her concern. Temba hesitated at first. He wasn't used to being involved in anything dangerous or dramatic. But he could sense Kemi's sincerity and agreed to help, knowing that something serious was being hidden from the world. Working together, they managed to access the doorbell camera's cloud storage, a task that took patience and careful attention to detail. The first few clips seemed ordinary, Amina walking in and out of the house, daily routines, polite visits to neighbors. But then they found it, a brief, shocking clip that changed everything. The footage showed Amina leaving the compound late at night, clutching a scarf stained with blood. Her movements were hurried, tense, almost panicked. The image was undeniable, damning, and horrifying all at once. Both Kemi and Temba stared at the screen in disbelief, hearts racing, knowing they had just uncovered the key to the entire mystery. That single clip was more than evidence. It was a viral grenade waiting to explode. If it were shared, the entire town, and potentially the nation, would see Amina's guilt laid bare. The polished, grieving socialite everyone admired could suddenly be exposed as someone capable of betrayal and murder. Kemi felt a mix of fear and resolve. She now held the proof that could bring justice for her mother, but she also knew that handling it carelessly could backfire. Temba, though quiet and shy, understood the power of what they had discovered. Together, they realized that this small piece of technology, the little doorbell camera, had become the most important witness, a hidden eye that refused to be fooled, capturing the truth no one else could see. What they had in their hands wasn't just a clip, it was the spark that would ignite the unraveling of Amina's perfect life, a revelation that could not be ignored, and a secret that demanded action. Amina felt the walls closing in. She knew someone was starting to dig, and fear made her desperate. Her first move was to try to silence anyone who might expose her. She called neighbors and friends, offering money to keep quiet, sending veiled threats that hinted at ruined jobs and broken reputations. She whispered lies about Mama Zol's health before her death, spreading false stories to confuse and control the narrative. Everyone around her felt the tension, but Amina wore her mask well, acting calm, sad, and polite, as though she had nothing to hide. She believed that money and manipulation could shield her from the truth. But Temba, the shy baker who had helped Kemi retrieve the doorbell footage, was not so easily swayed. When Amina's emissary arrived with a bribe, Temba shook his head quietly. Money could not erase what he had seen. He knew that the clip showing Amina leaving the house late at night with a bloodied scarf could not be ignored, and that justice for Mama Zol was more important than fear or wealth. With careful hands, he uploaded the footage to a trusted journalist in Nyala, someone who could handle it responsibly but also make sure it reached the public. The file moved through networks, quietly at first, then faster, and soon it began to circulate widely. The reaction was immediate. People who had whispered about Amina now had proof in their hands. Social media exploded with shock, anger, and disbelief. Citizens of Marafa and beyond demanded answers, sharing the clip again and again. Online forums, news outlets, and neighborhood groups buzzed with discussions of betrayal, greed, and murder. Amina's once unshakable image began to crumble in real time. Friends she had counted on for support started looking at her differently, hesitant and suspicious. Those who had admired her social status now whispered about her motives, questioning every gesture she had ever made. Amina tried to regain control, but the tide had already turned. The bribes and threats that had seemed so powerful moments before were useless against the flood of evidence. Her carefully constructed world of wealth and influence started to fracture as the doorbell clip spread like wildfire. What had been hidden in plain sight was now public knowledge. The small camera at Mama Zol's gate, overlooked by so many, had become the ultimate witness. Amina's greed, lies, and deception were no longer secrets, and the public outrage was only beginning. With each share of the footage, each conversation about the clip, the story of Amina's betrayal gained momentum, and the countdown to her reckoning had officially begun. The courtroom in Safana was packed, buzzing with anticipation. Prosecutors had spent weeks building a solid case against Amina, gathering every piece of evidence they could find. The tiny doorbell camera footage was the crown jewel, but they also had phone records showing secret calls, messages that revealed lies, and suspicious bank transactions that traced Amina's greed directly to her accounts. Every detail painted the same picture, a carefully planned crime. Reporters and cameras filled the room, ready to broadcast every moment, and soon the trial became more than a legal process, it turned into a public spectacle, watched by the whole nation. Amina walked into the courtroom with her usual composed air, her designer clothes perfectly pressed, her hair and makeup flawless. She smiled at supporters and glanced coldly at opponents, trying to maintain control. For a moment, it seemed as though her mask might hold. She sat through testimony, nodding politely, answering questions in smooth, rehearsed tones. But the tension in the air was thick, and every whisper, every camera flash made it clear that the public was waiting for the truth to come out. Then came the moment no one could ignore. The doorbell video was played on the large screen at the front of the courtroom. Every eye in the room fixed on the screen, and for the first time, Amina's calm demeanor faltered. The video showed her leaving Mama Zol's house late at night, the scarf in her hand stained with blood. Her hurried steps, the nervous glances over her shoulder, the careful way she tried to hide what she was doing, it was all there, replayed in slow motion for everyone to see. The courtroom gasped, some people whispered, and cameras captured every detail. The nation watching on live television saw Amina's guilt unfold, not in words or accusations, but in the undeniable clarity of the footage. As the video ended, Amina's mask completely cracked. Her composure shattered, leaving a woman exposed and vulnerable for all to see. Her eyes darted nervously, her hands shook, and for the first time, the audience saw fear and panic where there had only been confidence before. The prosecutors pressed on, connecting the footage to phone records and financial trails, making the case airtight. Supporters shrank back, and skeptics leaned forward, realizing that the story they had only heard in whispers was now undeniable truth. The courtroom spectacle became more than a trial, it was a moment of national reckoning. Amina's carefully crafted life of wealth, influence, and deception was unraveling in real time, and there was no turning back. After the shocking courtroom revelations, Amina's world began to crumble faster than she could imagine. People who had once called themselves her friends started turning away, unwilling to be associated with her now that the truth was out. Allies who had smiled and laughed with her in the past whispered in corners, their loyalty evaporating as the evidence mounted. Even those closest to her, the people she had trusted, began confessing secrets of their own. Lovers admitted they had known pieces of her schemes or had been pressured to help her cover things up. Each confession, each betrayal, left Amina more isolated, her carefully constructed social circle collapsing like a house of cards. Just when she thought things couldn't get worse, new witnesses appeared unexpectedly, people who had stayed silent until they realized the moment to speak had arrived. Among them was Obaisai, a longtime friend of Mama Zol. Quiet and observant, Obaisai had watched Amina for years, noting her moods and actions, and had recorded a moment when Amina, angry and frustrated, confessed parts of what she had done. When he presented the tape in court, the room fell silent. Amina's words, spoken in a private moment and now public, confirmed everything that the prosecutors had been building. There was no way to deny the truth, the confession was raw, unfiltered, and devastatingly clear. The judge, recognizing the depth of the deception and the seriousness of the crime, ordered a full forensic audit of Amina's finances. Every account, every transaction, and every movement of money was examined carefully. The audit revealed a trail of cash that led directly to Amina's offshore accounts, showing how she had moved her mother's wealth across borders, hiding it from the rightful heirs. It was an irrefutable connection, tying her greed and deceit to real, concrete proof. As the layers of lies unraveled, the courtroom buzzed with tension and disbelief. Amina, once powerful and untouchable, was now surrounded by enemies, betrayed by her own actions, and confronted with evidence that could not be erased. Every alliance she had counted on had crumbled, leaving her alone to face the consequences. The combination of witnesses, the confession, and the forensic audit made it clear to everyone, her carefully planned life, built on manipulation and lies, was coming apart. The audience could see it happening in real time. Amina's empire of influence and control was collapsing, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. The moment the jury reached their verdict, a heavy silence fell over the courtroom. Every eye was fixed on Amina as the foreperson stood to announce the decision. The doorbell camera, the small, silent witness that had captured her every guilty move, had played a starring role in proving the truth. There was no denying it now, Amina had been found guilty. The word hung in the air like a hammer striking finality. She sat frozen, her carefully maintained composure gone, replaced by shock, disbelief, and fear. Outside, the news spread instantly, shared and reshared online, as the nation watched the culmination of months of suspense, lies, and betrayal. Villagers gathered outside the courthouse, their voices rising in chants for justice. They had followed the case closely, and now their patience and outrage had been vindicated. People who had whispered doubts months ago now cheered for the truth. Social media exploded with reactions, trending hashtags, and viral videos of the courthouse crowd celebrating the long-awaited accountability. For many, it felt like justice had finally arrived, not just for Mama Zol, but for the small, quiet truths that had been ignored too long. Meanwhile, Amina's fortune began to crumble. Her luxury home was sealed, bank accounts frozen, and assets tied up in legal proceedings. The glamorous life she had flaunted on social media, the wealth she had chased so ruthlessly, evaporated almost overnight. Every transaction, every possession that had seemed untouchable, was now under scrutiny or confiscation. It was as if the very wealth she had manipulated and stolen had turned against her, disappearing into the hands of justice. Most importantly, Mama Zol's estate was restored to the rightful heirs. Kemi and other family members could finally claim what had been taken from them, and they began the slow process of healing and rebuilding. The sense of relief in the community was palpable. People had seen greed punished, lies exposed, and truth celebrated. The small doorbell camera that had once gone unnoticed became a symbol of accountability, proving that even the tiniest witness can hold immense power. Amina's fall served as a cautionary tale for anyone who thought wealth and influence could place them above the law. Justice had been served, viral and unflinching, and the people of the town could finally breathe, knowing that truth, no matter how small, had triumphed over deception. Months later, Marafa was quiet again, but the air felt lighter, filled with a sense of healing and new beginnings. Kemi had used her inheritance wisely, opening a community center in Mama Zol's name. The building was simple but welcoming, with bright walls, a small library, and space for children to learn and play. Villagers came often, sharing stories, attending classes, and celebrating events. It became a place where the memory of Mama Zol lived on, not just in wealth, but in the positive impact it brought to the community. Kemi worked tirelessly, determined to honor her mother's legacy and turn tragedy into something meaningful. The final touch that tied the story together was the gate. Refurbished and polished, it now stood as the entrance to the center, a small but powerful reminder of the events that had unfolded. The doorbell camera, once a hidden witness to crime and greed, was back in place. But now it symbolized something very different: truth, justice, and accountability. People passing by often paused to look at it, aware that a tiny lens had changed lives, exposed lies, and restored what was rightfully theirs. The narrator's voice reflected the town's lesson: even the smallest lens can topple the largest lies. It wasn't just about cameras or evidence, it was about vigilance, courage, and refusing to ignore wrongdoing. What had started as a tale of greed and deception had ended in restoration and hope. The camera, the community center, and Kemi's dedication became reminders that truth, however small, has the power to prevail. In the soft sunlight of Marafa, life went on, brighter and wiser, and the story of Mama Zol, justice, and the quiet heroism of those who sought the truth lived on for everyone to remember.